welcome. And if you the first time you have come across this recording, it's all focused about to be able to create awareness to the free thinkers in Belize. So this channel here, it's a using multimedia network, is focused for our brothers from around the world to be able to speak freely about their sentiments in Belize. I know that many times you feel that you cannot have a say because you do not reside in Belize. At the same time, you feel deprived from it because whatever decisions the government in Belize are making, you're not taking in consideration. For example, let's take the ICJ. Belizeans who were not residing in Belize were not able to say something because government was very straightforward to say that if you don't reside in Belize for 3 months, you have nothing to say. But one thing that it's surely and clearly indicated is that a number of Belizeans who reside abroad sustain Belize. They provide that source of generating income for their families back in Belize. And if you're providing that source of income to Belize, it means that you have at the same time you're providing for the development of the country, something that the Belize government cannot do because Belize government does not have a way to provide social welfare to the population. At the time, as we having to talk, we chit chatting, I'm waiting for a response of Brother Luis Wade, who is the director of Plus TV, a very liberal news media that has been able to be the the voice of conscience to the country of Belize. Why do I say this? It's not because I am actually picking on the different media houses in Belize or I have a grievance against them. No, it is simply because other media houses in Belize, some way or the other, have been tinted with politics. Either they play for they're participants of a party, and whenever they're participants of a party, it means that their freedom of expression is limited. I'm not saying that Belize doesn't have very good journalists. They do. I work there. Okay, we have engaged. We have one person coming up. Hello, Luis. How are you, my brother? Welcome to. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Beautiful. I can hear you. And so, Luis, this is one try. We started to be able to do this platform where you and I can share this, and we can share this later on to the wider audience. Um, both of us have a similar sentiment about Belize. We love Belize. You're in Belize, I am in Europe, but we have one thing in common. Above everything, apart of loving Belize, is that we love the principles and the teachings of Jesus.
Right. That's right.
So, how are
That's
you,
right.
my brother?
I'm doing fine. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. And very excited about this opportunity, you know. Because we need more people who are willing to speak truth, to work together and to speak that truth publicly, because that's what's needed. That is what is needed, to speak the truth publicly so that more people can understand what's taking place.
I know that when you're in Belize and when you're outside Belize, you see things in a total different perspective because you see I'm from outside, I'm an observer, even though I love Belize. You're in Belize,
Mm,
you see things within the house. I know that there's other media houses in Belize who are showcasing and having constant broadcasting about the present situation. But either or the one way or the other, it seems to be a bit politically one-sided or affiliated.
mm,
And I think to have an objective communication and to transmit to the public in general, we need to be able to be impartial in our way we see things. How does your station keep objective with that impartial reporting when you don't have the support from the I don't know the commercial, I don't know the local commerce in the country, or how do you instill that inspiration to the reporters who work with you?
Yeah, well, our reporters are Christians as well, first and foremost. So they have a um, affinity to truth. That's their top priority. So, like, I'm gonna, if information comes into me of a story that they need to cover, it is not based upon, well, who will the story affect? We're not interested in who the story will affect, whether a political party or what. It's just, is it true? Is it true? And how many angles can we have on this story? Yes, we want both sides, but are there other angles? So we do not look over the shoulder of our journalists as they are writing a story. Um, we try to get very good journalists and we want them to be believers so that they understand the Judeo-Christian worldview. That's now important to us.
Mhm.
And then we want to ensure that it is true. So from the selection of our journalists and the training of our journalists, there is that independence to write the story from the perspective that they see it. So even my co-hosts with who sit with me on the morning talk show, we don't go over perspectives or views. So I am hearing those views fresh with the just as the audience is hearing one of my co-hosts' viewpoint, I am hearing it as well. In other words, we do not censor our co-host. Again, I want to make sure that they have a Judeo-Christian viewpoint. Um, so it doesn't matter their denominational background, but once they recognize that God is active in the world and that they have a affinity for truth, then so once they become a host, we do not monitor their personal perspective. And then money is not a driving factor. So a big company, like sometimes in the back of their mind, is big. So primary objective for us. We need money, but we don't determine our stories on money either. So even if the company is advertising with us or a potential advisor, if they do something wrong with the environment or anything like that, that story will run. So it's up to them now if they want to continue to advertise or not.
Mm.
It's up to them. Because one of the things we're going to do is we're going to be truthful. We're not going to twist the information. So if they did it, they did it. And they should man enough to say, yeah, well, it's true. It's true what we did. So the driving factors are important.
Definitely. There's something an account that I can recall. You know, I worked in Belize between 91 to 2003. And my whole emphasis when I was there was to be able to give a transparency and a very honest reporting about the issues that were affecting Belize at the time, which is not no difference from what's happening now when with the corruption level that it is. And many people are saying, I've been monitoring the Belize news is saying, oh, things are worse now than it was before. Something that I know as a Christian is sin is a sin. There's not a level of sin. Immorality is immorality. And I believe as a Christian point with a point of view of it is that we have to be honest. And I got myself in trouble when I was there because I was trying to be very objective in the way I was reporting the stories. And the corruption level that existed then when I was there was under the PUP administration is not different from what happening now. What I've seen is that the individuals that our population have elected are people which who have very questionable moral values. Because if you have a strong moral value, you're not going to engage yourself in wrongdoing.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I see though is that more politicians are participating in a more bold-faced way. And then we're also seeing the erosion of the public service itself as well, where
Hmm.
people now, independent of politicians, independent, are using their position in government for personal corrupt.
Hmm.
So it's it's spreading in that more people are finding it a norm to participate, even independent of a politician. People have their own scams going there.
So in other words, we have a system. You're saying we have a system of bribery that has infected our population.
Yes, that we used to talk about one time about Mexico and Mordidas. We used to talk about Mexican Mordida. We used to we used to talk about Nigerian this Nigerian scam artists, and we are now developing those very same um those same norms
Mhm.
where corruption is a norm, where people are expected that you will put $50 in the application form as you across the table. Um,
Well,
so
I agree with you. I haven't been to Belize for quite a number of years now, but
mhm,
I have very close people to me who have been in Belize recently, and they made me aware that even to get a seat in the bus, you have to bribe someone to be facilitated. And what I'm seeing is that is a ripple effect. If it's been done from the lower level, it goes all the way up to administrative, as what we have seen the attitude and the justification of John Saldivar. He He's saying, well, it's a normal practice. It's being given to us, so we take it. We don't ask questions, and so it's a mirror reflection of the way the community is developing itself. But I'm just trying to be an objective person
yeah,
here. But I believe that
sure.
as a nation who has been founded with Christian principles, and as well that our Constitution was written under Christian principles, means that the society has failed to understand that.
Right. And I think a part of the problem is that we are, even our Christian schools are not teaching that our country was founded upon Christian principles. Our church, state schools are not teaching at least the preamble to the Constitution that talks about the supremacy of God. I mean, I had to find these things out late in life. I had to find out that George Price was a man of prayer and was a fervent Roman Catholic. He went to mass every day. That he was training to be a priest when he was called into politics. Like, these things are not being talked about. I don't expect the secularists to talk about them. I
Mhm.
expect the secularists to be burying those things.
My
But I
brother,
expect the church to be the ones, and the church state schools to be bringing that into the education system.
but principles of morality starts at home.
Mhm.
It's a base foundation. So
Yes, but
if you have a strong base of morality starts from home, then it reflects on the activity of our community. So
Yes.
somewhere or the other, that value of structure has failed and has fallen apart. Is that it is not being practiced because we either want to live a modern sort of adapted style of living than following the true principles. And it's like we see it all over the world. I'm here in Europe, and I have a lot of friends throughout Asia and the Middle East, you know.
Mhm.
And when I see, not because I see everyone according to the eyes of Christ, but then they have other faiths that they take pride of who they are. For example, let's take Islam. Islam teaches their people of either their, and many of them fail totally wrongly with their attitude, but it teaches their kids from their kids to be proud of who they are. Recently I was speaking to a group of Syrian refugees children, and the first thing the kids came to me was like, I am Muslim, are you? And I was like shocked, because how many times we Christians identify ourselves as, I am a believer, I follow the principles of the teaching of Jesus Christ, so I have to be reflective in the decisions I take. But then we have as well, at the time, many churches have developed across the world who are calling themselves carnal Christians. So means everything is played, everything goes, and morality then is being shoved aside. But Jesus loved me, and so let's engage in irregularities. And that's the reason why the whole structure within government is collapsing.
Well, the problem is that we're having problems in the home. There are a lot of single parent families. So the school has to play catch up whenever the school is supposed to be like a safety net for what's missing at home in morality. That's why the church is supposed to be interested in education. It's to help provide the moral framework. Yes, it is to get people to get to know Christ, but also to see the world from that biblical perspective.
Mhm.
So, so where homes are failing, and homes will fail if pastors fail. Like if pastors fail to teach not just the gospel of salvation, but how it relates in a real world. Like when we talk about morality, like I always say, the Christian appears to be the last one that wants to take his Christianity into the workplace. The Christian wants to be the last one. Like I've been to Taiwan. I've been to Taiwan. Um, and you see the temples everywhere. You see the Buddhist temples everywhere, and you see high corporate individuals, high-ranking politicians. The government embraces Buddhism. It embraces it and brings it into governance, brings it into culture, brings it into law. And the people are not afraid to say, just like what you say, I am Muslim, I am Buddhist, and I'm a successful this. Somewhere in the Christian Western mindset, we believe that the Christianity ought to be checked at the door, left at the door somewhere.
Yeah, because that's what my point of view is, and the way I see life is that if you are a Christ follower, it's a 7 days a week commitment, 24 hours a day commitment, week to week, day to day, month to month. And once you stick to that principles, yes, there's going to be many questions being brought to you, against you, and even criticisms, but you have to reflect what you're being taught to be. But then when we leave that aside and we become to be partisans of just a philosophy but not a practice, that's when our structure fails. I live here, and I get a lot of information coming from Belize, and I do monitor because I love the country Belize. But when I see
Right,
when I
right.
receive photographs from the Attorney General misconducting himself, like, is this who is representing our community? When I get images of very explicit nature of Jan Saldivar that's available online, you go, is this what's representing our community? So apparently what I'm seeing is that there is a blindfold that has been overpowering the nation of beliefs, that people are not seeing the truth behind the wrong behavior of government. So I know it might sound very straightforward, I'm going to say, but if the UDP moves administration at the moment and the PUP comes in power, what are these people bringing to the table? Where are their moral standards lie upon? And it
Mhm.
sadly is that our fellow Christians are not speaking out. You know, where is this being taught in church? Where on Sunday service are we speaking about the collapsed structure we have? If it's been played
Right.
around, if you look into the Bible, when did kingdoms collapse? It's because of the lack of moral standards.
Correct. Correct. But I don't think that there is sufficient talk about morality. I don't think there is sufficient talk, which is why our politicians are not being held to the highest standard. Like when you see a Christian who you expect to understand the role that morality plays in, you expect them to understand it. But that Christian is going to make a statement that says, like, you cannot legislate morality, for example. You can't legislate morality. I go like immorality is a kind of morality. Immorality is a kind of morality. So if you write an immoral law, you are legislating a kind of morality. You are. So when you have a Christian where you expect to know better, agree with a secularist, agree with an atheist that that you can legislate morality. I mean, my goodness, if you take the age of sexual consent and you say we're going to move it from 18 to 16 or from 16 to 14, you are legislating morality by simply changing the age of consent.
Mm-hmm.
That's a morality issue. So I think that our primary problem, which is why I seek to educate as I speak on my morning talk show, and I bring these things in because they are not being taught by our pastors. They're just not being taught,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So that application in the real world and the application of spiritual principles to law and to a nation. And that's what at my church I always preach. I say God is interested in individuals, but God is interested in nations too. He called a nation Israel. And so those are some of the driving factors that allows me to speak the way I do on the morning action, why we're interested in news.
And my brother, I will say, keep the good work. It's not
Thank you. Yeah.
easy. It's like when you're in conflict, when you're in war, you're in the trenches, and when you're in the trenches, you understand what that the attacks are. And
Mhm.
God has instilled in us to be the voice in the desert.
That's right.
That's
That's
why
right.
that's why John the Baptist was killed, because he became the voice in the desert.
Exactly.
And the only way things are going to change in Belize is when Christianity, not religion, Christianity with a standard, complete understanding what morality is, start becoming the voice in the
Hmm.
wilderness of corruption that is
Yeah,
decaying and collapsing our nation.
that's correct. That's correct. Yeah, yeah. Well, we need to chat again sometime.
My brother,
Oh,
blessings, and listen, continue the good work. And from cyber world, from this part of the world to your part of the world, any last words, my brother?
well, it's just a pleasure speaking with you. And we need to have more of these conversations, not just with ourselves, but also with the general public. There is the need for training in morality and how morality and legislation and holding leaders to highest standard and how that relates to the church and the family and how do we create a society that fears God. I say I don't want to be in a goat nation. I want to be a sheep nation. You know, I want our people to be a God honoring people.
If you have enjoyed this conversation, please share this video. Many more videos are yet to come, where we'll be discussing different issues affecting the population in Belize, and as well looking into the level of corruption, and as well how can we make a difference. Belize is made of great people, people I love and people that you love as well. But remember, the time has come for us to make a change and hold those people who putting in government accountable. Well, you putting in government, make them accountable for whatever decisions they're doing. And those who are in power and who have failed you, hold them accountable, because Belize is a beautiful nation. It's a nation that was founded with great principles. Keep in mind, you can make a difference. So, from Cyber World, I say so long. This is your friend, Melvin Upton.